dog. And I'm just like, wow. So somebody sent me a post to call the Moreno Valley Animal Protection people, and I'm probably gonna do that. But I'm gonna approach him. I'm gonna approach him myself first and be like, hey man, I heard somebody was beating a dog on here
Wow.
the other day. Did you hear that? And I just want him and see what he says.
Good for you. That's the way to do it. Sometimes that's all it takes for them to stop. If somebody's beating their wife or their dog, they just know somebody's out there that's aware of it. It can help them to stop.
Yeah, and you know he can hear this whole interview right now. I'm doing this in my backyard for a reason right now. He can hear everything I'm right now.
Good for you. Well, Facebook, everybody on Mac Rome's Facebook page and mine, welcome to Comic Spot. Yeah, I'm so happy to have this gentleman on here. He's been tearing up the comedy scene. He's gotten his comedy so tight, so hysterical. He tears up an audience, you guys. He's a Navy veteran. Oh my gosh, I love him for having served our country. And he's been working so hard at his comedy, going all over the place. Recently, he went and did a show live social distancing show at in the Palm Springs area. We're going to talk about all of that and more right now. But first, welcome to the stage, my friend and soon to be yours, the amazing Mac Rome. Hi.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm honored to be here. I seen you had Sinbad on your show like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
And I had him for 42 minutes in my bedroom.
Yeah. So hey, I'm really honored that you decided to have me back twice. So
I did. I'll have you on every month.
oh, thank you. Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you so much.
Yes. No, Sinbad was amazing to interview. Now I'm known as the girl that did the interview with Sinbad.
Hey, that's something that came out of the coronavirus for you, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't want the virus to end.
I mean, like you're doing good things. I see your show all the time. You're doing really good things on here. So I'm like, wow, like you turn this negative into a big positive.
Yes, I think that comedians need to be known for who they are off stage, you know?
Okay.
And I think that a lot of times people just go to see anybody on stage. And I just want, at least my friends and fans, I want them to get to know you off stage behind your mask, you know?
Okay.
So and I want to this just cheers me up and it cheers other people to get to know people behind when their guard is down. On stage you have a persona and jokes, and people don't know that your neighbor has a dog that you're looking out for. And that makes people fall in love and want to support you.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. It's. I mean, you hear something like that. Come on, man. Come on.
You're going to tune a deaf ear to that. You might as well hang it up.
And like I told you, I don't know if everybody in the interview heard it before we went live on Facebook, but what happened was last night around 6 o'clock, I heard my neighbor abusing his dog. And the amazing part about it was that all the other dogs in the neighborhood here, all the dogs around, I don't have a dog, all the dogs around my yard started howling the same way they howl like when an ambulance passes by your house. But they weren't howling at an ambulance. They were howling in support of this dog. And so right now we're doing this interview right now, and I'm well within earshot of my neighbor. He can hear me saying this right now. That shit was fucked up. And
Okay.
yeah, and everybody noticed it, at least the dogs, and everybody paying attention. And so yeah, I'm gonna say something to him. I'm gonna approach him about that. And I'm gonna say, hey man, I heard somebody beating a dog around here. Did you hear that? And I'm gonna see what he says.
Good. I'm so proud of you for doing that. We all need to step up when things aren't right. That's the problem with people, is that too many things in this world have been allowed to happen. No one's stepping up to the plate. So thank you for stepping up.
No problem. Hey, I have a friend in Charleston, South Carolina, and he read my post about the dog, And he said, that's a commentary about society right now also. Like black men are being killed by the police and everything, and the other people are howling out. The other people are coming in support.
It's about time.
Yes. And so, yeah, that just tripped me out to think about that and then see that happen with animals also. You know what I mean? Like, and it's happening with people right now too. That's what's happening with us. Some of us are scared. We're hurt. And we're afraid of the police. And we need advocates and friends to help speak up for us. We need our other dogs to howl.
Thank you. And it happens. There's let's just bring out the R word. There's racism left unchecked everywhere.
Right.
It's not just, you shouldn't turn on your racism radar at a rally. I mean, if you go to a store and you get waited on before somebody of a different color, you shouldn't let that happen.
Well, you know what happens, Linda, in this country? What I've been noticing is we keep saying to ourselves, we need to have this conversation about racism. We keep saying that. And then when we try to have a conversation about racism, people close their ears. Colin Kaepernick, he tried to have a peaceful conversation about police abusing black people, and they closed their ears. They locked him out. The president of the United States called him sons of bitches. Okay? And they closed their ears. And then when the protests escalated and more people started protesting, now they're saying, oh, you guys, you only act out violently. Why didn't you say? You guys weren't listening. We were telling you this for years, and you guys were not listening. And now that it's escalated, you want to take it off the point of the protest, and you want to make the violence or the escalation of the protest the point. That's not the point. Mm-mm. You're ignoring the point. So,
exactly.
yeah.
So I just, like, we all can learn to be more loving towards people of a different color. I'm speaking about us white people. And I don't want to hear white people saying, I'm not racist, because it's so embedded in our hard drive. We don't even know where it's at. It takes a black comedian to point out where our racism is at for us to listen. It's there. Don't say you don't have any. If you're white, you've got it.
Yeah.
That's,
well, I know a lot of good white people, and I don't think that all white people are racist at all. I mean, I have beautiful friends, especially in South Carolina. And it's just like, some people are insensitive. I think sometimes some people have chosen to support Donald Trump a long time ago, and they just can't admit that they made a mistake with this guy. And now it's leading the nation to a place where it's just bad. It's bad for everyone. I literally, I'm armed. I'm armed in my house. I'm armed in my vehicle. I'm literally in fear of running into either a vigilante like the McMichaels that killed Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, or I'm afraid of the wrong police officer pulling me over.
Absolutely.
You have to realize when your fellow American, regardless of their color, we are calling out to you, we are reaching out to you, and we are telling you that we are in fear from the police, the people who are supposed to protect and serve us.
Can you imagine?
Are in fear. And if people could just understand that and just try and empathize, try and put yourself in those. What if you were afraid of the police? Think about that.
Thank you. Alonzo Bowden put out a post a couple weeks ago, and he said, come on, you white people couldn't handle this for a day. And I sat in my room for 1 hour and just tried to put myself in the shoes of a person who's black in this country. I couldn't take it for an hour. It had me in tears. I got to thinking about, I was a single mom. When I sent my daughter to the store, I never had to worry if she was going to get shot or had her neck stepped on by a policeman because of her color. Never. That wasn't part of my wheelhouse to think that, to be afraid. If I had a knock on the door, I didn't have to worry if the police were going to come in and shoot up the wrong house. Never once.
Yeah, they need to get rid of no-knock warrants. I mean, that's just ridiculous. How can you not knock and tell people that you're the police and just bust into their house like they did Breonna Taylor and just shoot somebody. And then they charged her boyfriend for murder or for assault because he shot one of the police in the thigh. You bust into somebody's house, you don't say anything, and what, man? That's not even, how is that legal? How are the police doing that? How are the police? Somebody just said Trump doesn't have to do anything with the racism and stuff around here. Well, let me ask you this. How is it that Trump is sending the police out to violate peaceful protesters' First Amendment rights so he can take a photo op in front of a church? Exactly. He is encouraging abusive police. He is encouraging racism. He is right now defending Confederate flags. He just threatened to put people in jail 10 years if they knock down that Andrew Jackson statue. Now, Andrew Jackson, if you haven't studied Jacksonian political theory, then you don't know how much of a shitball Andrew Jackson was. And this is Trump's favorite president. So don't tell me that this atmosphere in this place and what we're going through right now doesn't have anything to do with Trump. It absolutely does. You are in denial. You are in denial. He is literally throwing rallies on the sites of the biggest massacre, the biggest white on black massacre in American history at Tulsa, Oklahoma. He is literally throwing rallies there. And I'm glad nobody showed up. The ancestors showed up and they put that shit down. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ask me another question.
That's okay, because when earlier I said that we all white people have in some racism in us is what I really mean. And we don't even know it. We're not even aware of what we're not aware until we have it pointed out. For instance, growing up, I saw the blackface that was done as a little kid. And I was being told in my home that they were paying homage to people of color. Turns out, no, that's not. That's something that was embedded in my hard drive to think that it was a good thing. And it turns out it wasn't. So we come from a whole different culture being told different things about people of color. And so when we go through life, those things are way deep. Maybe we don't presently feel that there's anything in us where we have any programming in our hard drive, but we do. That's what I mean when I say there's racism in us. Because look at who our parents and grandparents were.
You know what I've observed in just my discussions, my debates, and I go through this all the time. A lot of white people don't know their history. I remember the last interview that we did, and I asked you about Portland. And you told me about how they flooded out of the city. And I went and researched that after you told me that, because I knew Portland was a racist city, but I didn't know the story like you told it. Yeah. So kudos to you for telling me that story.
Thank
and then
you.
I went and researched it. But you know what happens is in this country, a lot of people don't know the history. They just now, I mean, this is so funny, but even Donald Trump said, I made Tulsa famous. The reason he said that is because white people did not know that part of their history. And Tulsa wasn't an anomaly. Tulsa was something that was regularly happening through this country at that point in time. And people don't realize that. And so, it's just the history, you've got to realize, that there's a history here. I had one girl tell me the other day, she said, Black people in Africa sold you Blacks into slavery. So therefore, you don't have nothing to talk about. I said, okay, even if that were true, and it was some Black people there through the course of a war or whatever, they sold their enemies into slavery. And also Black people were kidnapped and just taken. Okay. But even if that were true, we still do not get to forget the 400 years of history from 1619 until right now in this country. We don't get to excuse our own history. And if you don't know your history, if you don't know about segregation laws, if you don't know about redlining, if you don't know about segregation, if you don't know about the Civil Rights Act of 1865, if you don't know about the 40 acres and a mule thing, you just should not speak on this stuff. You need to go read. You need to go research. You need to get off the fucking internet and read a book. Read a book. Read your own history.
My daughter went to Renton High School in Washington. And it was 98% Black people. And she didn't know, I'd never raised her to think she's better than anybody. So as a result, she was like, I don't know how to relate to people of another color. And I said, well, okay. And she went to the library. We had talked about it. And she went to the library to back up what I had said. In the library, the books used the N word incorrectly. So somebody at school asked her if she was prejudiced, and she answered saying, no, I'm not prejudiced against, which is basically saying you are prejudiced. So for the rest of my life, I'm going to be working to make sure libraries have the right books with the right information. I'll start small, but somebody needs to make sure that libraries aren't being stupid. You know, you can go on the internet, but these books, somebody needs to monitor the books.
Right. You know,
Nobody cares.
for a long time they were writing. Texas was setting the standard for school books in the United States for a long time. You know, when I was a kid. You know, so I guess I'm talking about in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But at the same time, Texas is the same state that has Juneteenth. They actually hid for 2 years from the slaves that they were free. So if you let that same state create your school books, what do you think is going to happen? These people are not going to be educated about their own history. And it's not, I wouldn't even say that's a white thing, because I think that the conqueror writes history, and that's just something that happens when you're in control of a nation. You write the history, you write the propaganda, you write things that you want your people to be educated on. But what has happened here is we've come into a crisis where they have miseducated white people, and white people do not understand how crucial this situation is for Black people right now. We have always been afraid of the police. The police they were instituted to patrol slaves. So from the very concept that you have police, you have them going against Black people. You have them as an antagonizing figure towards Black people, and it continues to this day. And so now Black people are considering all this history, and we're saying, you know, you guys are not. You hear the dogs howling? I don't know if this guy is beating his dog or anything, but the dogs are howling.
Let's talk a little bit about your rise to where you are in comedy now. You started doing comedy about how many years ago? Refresh my memory.
It's been 5.5, almost 6 years now.
Wow. Okay. And how did comedy, let people know how your comedy started and what got you to where you're at now? Because I'm assuming the very first time you went up, you were trying like all of us. And then at some point it twisted to where you're hilariously funny. I'd like to hear that. Like
Okay.
your first time and getting to where you're at now.
When I first started, I was trying to do an internet television show like what you're doing right now. And I wasn't trying to be the star comedian or anything. I was just the host. I was trying to produce a show. And so, I mean, I met so many wonderful people doing that. I did that for about 2 years. And I met so many wonderful people. And I just wanted to go out and do what they were doing. You know, I was like, wow, you know, you guys are awesome and stuff like that. Now, I did some comedy, you know, like I said, I messed around with it when I was in the military because I was a cook, and I used to have a captive audience in the galley on the ship. And it was like, you know, I just had those guys there. So I could tell them jokes and talk about them all day long as much as I wanted to, and they couldn't do nothing about it. So that was my first experiment with it. But yeah, I started doing an internet, it's called the Mac Rome Show, an internet TV show. And after we got finished doing that, I just went out on the road, and I wanted to become as good as the comedians that I saw on my show. Because I had Kevin Davis, I had Cynthia Rudd, I had Carly Carr, I had Paul D. I had so many talented and beautiful comedians. I was like, I wanted to be like that. The first comedian I met, Anthony Stone, who was really like the first personal friend, and who was a comedian, and I could really see what a comedian does and what that lifestyle was. He was that guy for me, and I worked. I didn't work for him, but I basically went and participated in his show for about a year, you know. And he would always give me the opening spot too. And so that was a challenge because you can't even read the audience or anything. You just got to go out there and go for broke. And so after
Yeah.
about a year of that, I felt like I could grow. I felt like I could do other things. And so I started doing different shows. I started getting booked at thanks to Cynthia, Miss Arkansas Rudd, I started getting booked at the Ontario Improv in California. And so, I started getting booked there, and then I started getting booked all across the country. I got booked in New York, and then I got booked in the Punchline in Philly, and then I started getting shows in Miami and just Utah, just all over the place. It just blew up. But yeah, I started out doing an internet TV show, just like what you're doing right now.
Well, that's so great. So you mentioned how you got funny. You mentioned how comedian Miss Arkansas and a lot of people that you met on your internet show helped you because they were inspiring you.
Mm-hmm.
So have you taken time now that you've gotten to being hilarious, become hilarious, you're a booked, you're bookable and you're getting jobs. So do you help other people that are behind you?
Oh yeah, I'm a job creator now. I
So
still produce shows. I still produce
good.
shows, and I still
Awesome.
pay. I'm one of the few people who pays everybody who participates in the show. Not everybody does that.
Oh,
You know,
that's awesome. You mean
there's
people
a
who
lot
come on, even like the opening person, opening act?
of I pay everybody.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Congrats.
you come on. You need to make a space for comedy, and you need to make it legit to where people get paid. And if you're not doing that, you're just bullshitting. You're just playing around with people. Playing with people's time and stuff. People got to drive and get dressed up and buy clothes and stuff to come to a comedy show, and you can't just pay them with chicken wings and a soda and shit. You know what I mean? You got to pay these people what they're worth, and then
That's
so
awesome.
when you do that, they will return the favor. And guess what? You'll start getting booked all across the country and people will be paying you too. That's what happened with me.
That's
But yeah, I'm
so
a job
such
creator
a
right
great
now.
story. Excuse me, what were you saying?
I say I still do that. I still produce shows. I still pay people. Yeah.
That's great. The Palm Springs show, was that a show you produced?
No, actually, that was Kevin invited me to that show. I never met the producer of that show before. His name is Max Mitchell. I want to give him a shout out. That was a great show, and it was a great atmosphere. It was a social distancing show, and no, Kevin called me up and he said, "Hey man, I'm about to do this show tonight, and I think I can give you a little bit of time if you want to come through." And I came through. So Kevin is a really good friend. He looked out for me. That's the first show I've done in 4 months. Everybody's
Wow.
been locked down.
Yeah.
So that was a good lookout for me. Shout out Kevin Davis. I seen him on your show earlier today. That was a good interview.
You two are the greatest, both of you. I couldn't believe when I got to be on the same show with you here at the Thunderbird in Vegas and get to meet you for the first time. I'd met him 5 years ago, and
Mhm.
and Miss Arkansas was there to watch. It was so great. It's a great show, and I got to see you live. My God, you're so funny.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You're funny too. And
Thank
I,
you.
and I just, like I said, I can't believe that all the wonderful people I've seen on your show. I'm really honored to be here. I really thank you for putting me on here
I
again.
wouldn't. I would have you on every month. Are you kidding me? Anytime you have something you want to promote, anything you want to say to people to inspire them, let me know. I'll put you on for 5 or 10 in between another interview.
All love. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you're getting through this whole pandemic, and it's about to get a lot better. So
I don't
how would you,
I don't think so.
you don't think
No,
it is?
the numbers are going the other way. I think even that show that I just did, I think that's going to be the last show that I do for a while. The numbers are going. We can't just ignore this. I know everybody wants to get out and protest and let their voice be heard and everything, but we can't ignore this. What's happening? Like every day, if you're watching the news, I think like 5,000 people came down with that shit today. You know, so
Wow.
I don't think we're going to be going back to normal anytime soon. I actually think things are going to get a little bit worse before they get better because
Okay.
we have a president who's just basically ignoring this. He's given up. They're not doing the coronavirus task force news conferences anymore. The guy, the Dr. Fauci says he hasn't even talked to Trump in a couple of weeks. And he's out there on television telling everybody right now is the time to wear your mask and stay in the house. And so I don't think this is going to be getting any better relatively soon. But I'm thankful for the show I just did, and I would probably do another social distancing show. That was cool. I didn't feel there was no problem there, but
Yeah.
I don't think things are going to get better right now.
So how would you tell people to cope through the rest of what we have to put up with until things get to a new normal?
Well, I mean, like we're kind of walking into the new normal now. I think that face masks are going to be the new normal. I think that police officers being held accountable for their actions is going to be the new normal. So, there's a lot of things that are changing. The new normal is already happening. And like, there's police officers right now who want to quit the force because they can't deal with the new normal. They can't deal with having to be held accountable for their actions, just like everybody else. I like to say something else about that too. You said something earlier about white people and stuff, and I was thinking, the police have been under scrutiny for exactly 3 weeks. People are shooting the police just because they're in uniform. People are prejudging the police because of something that a few bad police officers did. And now you have videos of police officers crying and breaking down on the internet. One lady thought that somebody poisoned her food in the coffee store. Somebody thought it happened at, a couple police officers thought Shake Shack poisoned their drink. And so you have police officers, after 3 weeks of scrutiny and prejudice, now they want to quit. They're breaking down on the internet and they want to quit. Let me tell you something. Black people have been under scrutiny for 400 years. We've been getting judged on our outward appearance for 400 years. We've been getting judged on what a few Black people do, a few criminal people do. We get judged by the police, especially the police. We get judged like we're just the same criminal. We get judged the same way and the same scrutiny that they're under right now. We've been getting that, and they've been the main people who have been doing that to Black people. So, God, man, it's a hard look. It's a hard truth. It's a hard truth. But you remember that Eddie Murphy movie, Trading Places? That's what this is like. The police now fit the description. Just like they always tell Black dude, you fit the description. Well, you guys fit the description of fucked up cops now.
How do you like it now?
How do you like that shit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what we've been living through. And instead of understanding that and understanding that we're reaching out to you and trying to tell you this is what we're going through, guess what they do? They blame it on it. But you Black people are fucked up. You got criminal record. They bring out Candace Owens and have her victimize the victim. And they just talk about us like, okay, that's not the point. Black people, this is one of their favorite things. What about Black on Black crime? Mm-hmm. You guys want to complain about the police, but you don't want to complain about Black on Black crime. Let me tell you something. Black people are not sworn to protect and serve other Black people.
There you go.
White people are not sworn to protect and serve other white people. The police are sworn to protect both Black, white, Mexican, brown, yellow, and all Americans. That is the difference. They are professionals getting paid with tax money. So don't tell me about what civilians do when the point here is what our government and our officials are doing. Our police are fucking us up. And you want to talk about Black on Black crime? White on white crime exists also.
Sure does.
So what the fuck are you talking about? It's just a distraction. You don't want to look at what's happening. You don't want to open your ears and look at what's happening. And people are peacefully and right now aggressively trying to tell you what the fuck is going on. And you just don't want to listen.
It's time to listen. This can't boil any harder than it's boiling. It's time for us to pay attention and learn and listen. We're not going to learn by talking.
No. Well, I have I got into it with this guy last night, man, and what happens is a lot of white people make these assumptions and they make stereotypes and they just assume certain things about you. And they say to you, you know what, even though you're protesting about police violence, what's really wrong is you're an angry Black guy and you're mad because of how your life has turned out. Just an assumption. And I say to myself, well, gee, I own my own house. I travel around the nation and tell jokes for a living. I'm not mad at white people for shit. I'm not mad at white people at all. There is a legitimate point about police abusing unarmed Black people, period. And
Thank
you
you.
can't just assume that somebody's life is going wrong and that's why they're complaining about that. That is not what's happening. People from all walks and stages of life are talking about this. This is what's happening. You have to open your ears and listen to what your fellow Americans are telling you, because we're telling you.
Yes, we're lucky that you're telling us, and we should be thankful, and we should listen, and we should make sure that things change and stay changed.
Right.
We should be vigilant that it doesn't go backwards. Once we make some changes, we've got to keep making them and stay vigilant for everything that happens to anybody in this country who happens to be Black.
Yeah. It's gonna, I think this is like our third civil rights movement here. We had a Reconstruction movement after 1865. We had another one in 1965, which we know of as the Civil Rights Movement. And I think right now we're going through our third civil rights movement, and it's really just about human rights.
It is.
It's
It
human,
is.
and it's a shame to say that in America.
This is a very serious note to break away. I need to break away, and I love you with all of my heart, and I want to support you. Anything you post, tag me, I'll share it. And whenever you have a show anywhere in the world, let me know. Come on and promote it. You, Kevin, Miss Arkansas, I'll help get you back on and do some talking about it for 5-10 minutes anytime you want.
No problem. And like I said, thank you again for having me back on your show. And I
Thank
like
you
the
so much.
setup. It looks great.
Thank you. Sinbad. He said I could have 2 minutes and I got 41 minutes.
All right. Well, you go, baby. You did that.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much. And everybody have a great day.
Bye. Thank you for being real.